All right, we are going to be doing evaluating the domain. This is day 2. So more practice with this. We're going to be having some word problems. So learning goals, I can evaluate a function when given the value of x, and I can apply my knowledge of functions to solve a real world problem. All right, let's start off with the first example. We want to write out the steps for finding the output of 9x squared plus 4. I wrote that twice. 4 and input. All right, so remember, output is your y or your f of x. Okay, input is your x. So meaning if we're given an x, if we're given a value for x, what are the steps to arriving at an answer, finding that f of x? All right, so first, we want to make sure we're going through this step by step. So the way you can imagine this is put in any number for x. Make it nice and simple. Say okay, and write down each step. So first, we're going to square the input. So I kind of like matched the color of what you're going to do to that. So before you get to this, what you can do is you can say, all right, so if I put in 2, for example, let's say I put in 2 for x. So the first thing you would do, if you remember your order of operations, take care of parentheses, there are none except around this, and then exponents. And the thing to keep in mind here is this squared is only for the x. You're not doing 9 times x and then squaring that. So you've got to remember your order of operations. If you were going to do that, it would look like this. You would have parentheses around the whole thing. All right, but you don't. So the first thing you're doing is just squaring the input or your x value. All right, so if you were to solve this step by step, this would be the first thing you do. So then you'd have 9 times 4 plus 4. And then what would you do next? You would multiply that by 9, right? Order of operations. So 9 times 4 is 36 plus 4. And then you would add 4, which is exactly what you do next, which would give you an answer 40. So those are the steps. So you've got 3 steps. You've got 3 different parts here. You have this part, which we cover here. We have this part, which is covered down here. And then this, which is covered there. So if you're unsure, just plug in a value for x and go through and solve it step by step and explain each step what you're doing. It's as simple as that. You just need to explain everything, and you've got to remember your order of operations. So I know I mentioned PEMDAS, but I actually prefer GEMS, remember, which stands for, this is grouping symbols. Okay, so that could be parentheses, but it could be a number of other things that you'll eventually get into. E, exponents. M, multiplication and division together. And then S, subtraction and addition together. So you do it, remember these two are done at the same time, working left to right. All right, second example. Let f of t be the number of people in millions who own GPS systems t years after 2005. Explain the meaning of the following function. All right, so a couple of things here. We've got f of t, and we're told what t is. T is the number of years after 2005. This is important, all right, because your answer is definitely going to have to, your answer is going to depend on whether or not you realize this. The other thing to make note of is that this number right here, f of t, is the number in millions. So it's not 122.35 people. This is 122.35 million people. All right, so we're given the function f of 5 equals 122.35. We don't know what the function is, but what we do know is that whatever our input was, it was 5. Okay, so we can go back and say, okay, so what variable was represented? What was our input value? So it was t, and t was the number of years after 2005. So from that, you can say, well, if this is 5, and it's the number of years after 2005, okay, we can say it's 2010. So 5 years after 2005, it's just a matter of saying, okay, we started there, this number is 5, and that equals 2010. So f of 5 means 2010. 122.35, remember what I said, that's the number of people in millions who own GPS systems. So your final answer would be, in 2010, 122.35 million people own GPS systems. So you've got to make sure that you're including all of that, because it's asking you what the meaning of it is. Not the answer, not anything like that. What's the meaning? So this is another one where your verb, what are they asking you to do? Explain. What are they asking you to explain? They're asking you to explain the meaning. Okay? So make sure that you do that. And that's really all I have for today. Nice short video. Working on making sure you understand this whole like function notation, the f of x, so we will be practicing with it more, but in the meantime, just remember f of x is the same thing as y. Big thing to remember, f of x, when you write it like this, does not mean f times x. Okay? So keep that in mind. You guys have a good one.